Hey guys, so I'm reading this book now. It's by Donald Miller. It's called Tiny Font. No, it's not called a tiny font. It has a tiny font on the title. It says "A Million Miles in 1,000 Years," and I love reading. I know not everyone does. Some people are readers. Some people claim not to be, and I'm going to challenge that. Um, in school, kids are assigned certain books to read, and a lot of the kids I work with are reading the exact same books that I read 20 years ago. So they're still reading, The Crucible. That's one that I've already seen quite a bit of this year, and last year, and every year. But the books that the schools assign to your kids are not always, sometimes they are, but they're not always going to be the ones that are going to reach them. I know that when I was a kid, one of the books that I actually loved was a summer reading book. I had to pick from a list of 20. It was called Slaughterhouse-Five. And after reading that, I read like 6 other Kurt Vonnegut books because I just loved that book, and I was glad I was given a chance to discover it. But there were a lot of books that I read that I was not too big on. I remember The Giver. I don't remember The Giver. I remember having to read it and it being a chore. Some people love it. I'm not hating on The Giver. I'm just saying that that's a book that didn't speak to me. And a lot of kids are not reading books that speak to them in school. And it's impossible for any school to pick a book that's going to speak to every kid. That's just not realistic. Different books are going to speak to different kids. But the problem is so many kids think they're not readers, and parents think that their kids are not readers because the books they've been assigned are not the books that speak to them. I know a lot of young boys that will, like, if you try to give them like a story with a princess, a lot of girls will eat that up, some won't, but a lot of boys will just turned off, not interested in a particular book or a particular genre. I found a lot of boys, and I include myself, and some girls as well, prefer nonfiction. Reading a story is one thing, but a lot of kids, especially boys, but some girls too, would be way more interested reading history. I know when I was in high school and middle school, they gave us these big, thick history books, and we only read this much. I would be, and honestly, same thing in college. You pay like $200 for a book this thick, you read this much of it. But I would just flip back to the chapters that the teacher didn't teach us about, and I would just read that stuff for fun. A lot of kids, something like the Guinness Book of World Records, maybe just a manual, like something practical, maybe a book on how to do something. There's so many options. So I just want to let you parents know that if you don't think your kid is a reader because they're bored by every single book that they get in school, don't label your kids so quickly. And don't let the school label them. Don't let them label themselves. Give them an opportunity. Take them to the library. Go on Amazon. Go through the closet. I know I've got old books in my closet that I haven't touched for years, or some that I haven't touched at all that were given as gifts or I found or whatever. I bought like 10 books at once. But give your kid a chance to read different things, different styles of writing. I found, actually my first college major, I switched majors a few times before I graduated with a business degree. I was a philosophy major. Talk about going, to opposite extremes. But I still love reading like Plato and Descartes and Locke and they're not going to be exposed to that. I'm not saying that your kid is going to start loving Plato and Descartes, but there's some writer that's going to speak to your kid. And it's not their fault, it's not your fault, it's not even the school's fault that they haven't been exposed to it yet. It's just they need to take the opportunity, they need to be encouraged to find a book that speaks to them. So if you're discouraged that you don't think your kid's a reader, just give it a shot. Try out different books and see. And if you need any advice or suggestions, feel free to message me. But I want everyone to really think about what you are reading and what your kids are reading. Thanks.